I still remember the smell of that night. Damp concrete, old dust, and the bitter smoke from someone's last cigarette. It was the smell of a home that didn't know it was about to end. Back then, everything still worked. The lights, the elevator. Even our neighbors still said good morning in the stairwell. I was sketching by the window. Just another February evening. Cold, quiet. The city outside looked tired, but peaceful. Somewhere below, a dog barked. Upstairs, someone was frying onions. I could hear the sizzle, and for a second, I thought about dinner. Then Mom came in and pulled the curtains shut. "Turn the lights off," she said quietly. "Why?" "Just do it." Her voice wasn't angry, just off, like something inside her had shifted. I clicked the switch. Darkness wrapped the room like a blanket. In the dim light from the street lamp, I could see her checking her phone again and again. "Still nothing," she whispered. Dad came in a few minutes later. He was carrying his winter coat, dusted with snow. "News says they're just exercises," he said, more to himself than to us. "But people are leaving," Mom said. Alina from the fourth floor. She and her family packed their things. They left for Zaporizhia. Dad sat down, exhaled deeply. "They're panicking. Maybe we should, too," Mom snapped. "Maybe panic is smart now." I didn't say anything. I just watched them, feeling like a ghost at my own dinner table. Mom turned to me. "Dan, pack a small bag. Just in case." I nodded, but I didn't move. I was afraid that if I started packing, it would mean everything was real. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed with my headphones on, but didn't press play. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, the silence between heartbeats. In the morning, I woke up to silence. No birds, no neighbors, no traffic, just absence. Then a sound like thunder cracked the air, but it didn't fade like thunder. It shook the windows. Plates rattled in the cupboard. Mom screamed. Dad ran in, grabbed the radio. Static. Then, explosions reported in the outskirts. Martial law declared. That was it. No explanations. No guidance. Just a man's voice and the sound of the world breaking. We ran downstairs. The neighbors were already gathered. Some were crying. Some were shouting into phones that didn't connect to anything. Someone asked if we should go to the shelter. Someone else said it was safer to stay in. The power went out around noon. By evening, the sky had turned orange. The air tasted like burnt metal. Smoke curled between buildings like fingers reaching for something that wasn't there. That night, we slept in the hallway. No one said the word war, but we all knew. By the third day, the world had stopped pretending. Shops were closed. Buses disappeared. The ATMs blinked error and shut down. Streets that once buzzed with life now felt like tombs, silent, cold, and hollow. I watched it all from the window, sketchbook in hand, drawing the same building across the street over and over again, trying to prove to myself that it still existed. That's when the first missile hit our neighborhood. It sounded like a hammer smashing the sky. Then another, and another. Walls trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Windows shattered 3 floors above us. Mom screamed. I think I did too. We ran to the basement. Not the official shelter. That one was too far. Ours was just a cellar below the building, half flooded and full of old paint cans and broken furniture. Someone lit a candle. And suddenly, we weren't strangers anymore. Neighbors became people. People became faces. Faces became family. That's where I first saw her, Kira. She sat against the far wall, knees pulled to her chest, headphones dangling around her neck. Her hair was tangled. She wore someone else's coat, too big for her, and sneakers wrapped in plastic bags. She looked up at me like she already knew something I didn't. And maybe she did. I wanted to say something, but I didn't. Instead, I sat across from her and pulled my sketchbook out. Not to draw, just to hold on to something that felt like me. The next few days blurred into one long, gray shadow. There was no more day or night, only waiting. We lived by candlelight and radio static. Dad went upstairs now and then, just to see if we still had a front door. One day he came back pale. "The store on the corner," he said. "Gone." "Gone how?" someone asked. He didn't answer. He just sat down. And that silence said more than anything else. Kira started talking to me in whispers. First it was, "You go to school 27, right?" Then, "I saw you once at the stadium. You play defense." Then one night, as we sat side by side near the leaking pipe, "Do you think they forgot about us?" I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't say what I thought. Instead, I said, "No, someone knows. They have to." She didn't look convinced, but she nodded and leaned her shoulder against mine. That night, I cried for the first time. Not from fear, from how quiet everything had become. Even the missiles had stopped falling. And that silence was worse than the noise. Because at least with noise, you know someone's still alive on the other side. The taps ran dry on a Thursday. At first, we thought it was a glitch, something temporary. But by noon, people were melting snow in saucepans. By the next day, even the snow was gone. Dirty, yellow, tainted. Someone said the pipes had burst. Someone else said they were bombed. Did it matter? All we knew was, we were thirsty. Really thirsty. The kind of thirsty that makes your tongue stick to your teeth. That makes you dream of orange juice even if you've never liked it. Dad said, "I'll go." Mom said, "No, you can't." So I said, "I will." I didn't think it through. I just grabbed 2 empty bottles, tied a scarf around my face, and went. The air outside didn't feel like air. It felt like ash and fear, like 1,000 eyes watching from broken windows. I ran through alleys, hugging walls, avoiding intersections. The sound of shells in the distance felt like thunder rolling through metal. When I reached the old school, I found a line of people at a busted pump. They looked like ghosts. Some of them didn't even blink, just held their bottles like prayers. I got in line, waited. Every minute felt like a lifetime. Then, a whistle. Too sharp. Too close. Someone screamed. Then the explosion hit. I don't remember falling. Just the light, the heat, and the silence that came after, like the world had paused, unsure whether to keep going. When I opened my eyes, everything was dust. People were running. Someone dragged a woman by the arm. A dog barked in the distance, wild, confused. I grabbed the bottles, still intact. My legs were shaking, but I ran. Faster than I ever had. Not for water. For life. I didn't make it back to our basement. I ended up ducking into a different building, one I didn't recognize. The door creaked. The stairs were cracked. I made it to the basement, heart pounding like a drum. There were others there, strangers. White eyes. Bloody hands. A man holding his side, breathing heavy. I curled up in a corner and stayed quiet. The floor was wet. Rats scurried through the darkness. I clutched the bottles to my chest and counted every breath. 1, 2, 3. Every hour felt like a year. I thought about home, about my room, about soccer practice and Cristiano Ronaldo posters, about salty fries and cold soda and the way Kira laughed with her eyes. And I thought, is this the end? It wasn't. By morning, I ran again, weak but alive. Made it back. Hands frozen, lips cracked, but bottles full. They cried when they saw me. Mom held my face like it was made of glass. Kira looked at me like I'd come back from the dead. Later that night, I found the envelope, tucked inside Dad's coat. It said, "If I'm gone." My hands shook. I opened it anyway. "Dan, if you're reading this, then I didn't make it. I tried. God knows I tried. But if I'm gone, you're the man now. You protect your mom. You protect Kira. You don't let this war take your heart. It can take the house, the streets, the city, but not your soul. You hear me? Not your soul." Dad. I cried that night. Not because I was scared, but because I still had a soul. And that meant I had something left to lose. That morning, the city was quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. Like a monster that had eaten its fill and was now resting. The snow had covered everything in white. Beautiful, if you didn't know better. Beautiful, if you ignored the ash mixed in with the flakes. Dad said, "There might be a way out today." Mom didn't answer. Kira just looked at me and asked, "Do you believe him?" I said. The plan was to reach the old maternity hospital 3 blocks away. That's where the evacuation buses had stopped last time. If they came again, maybe we had a chance. We packed quickly. A backpack each. A few crackers. Some documents. Photos. The streets were dead. Glass crunched under our boots. Smoke hung low, like a memory no one wanted to speak of. Some buildings were just gone, like someone had erased parts of the neighborhood with a giant hand. We walked in silence. Dad led the way. Kira walked beside me. I held her elbow when she stumbled. She was still weak. Mom pulled the sled behind her with Grandma sitting on top, wrapped in every blanket we owned. At the hospital, there were already hundreds. Families, children, old women with plastic bags full of medicine, men holding hands with people they didn't even know. There were signs taped to windows. Evac, children, help. We found a spot near the gate. Waited. Watched. The buses were already half full. Dad talked to a soldier at the entrance. "How many more coming?" he asked. The man shrugged. "Maybe none. Can we get on?" "Only if there's room." That's when the screaming started. A woman pushed forward with a baby in her arms. Another family shouted at the soldier to let them through. People began to surge, desperate, chaotic. Then, a gunshot. Not close, but not far either. It didn't hit anyone, but it hit all of us. The crowd froze, then collapsed into madness. People shoved, pushed, tripped over each other. Grandma fell. I grabbed her. Mom screamed. Dad tried to calm everyone, but it was no use. By the time we got her back on the sled, the soldier was waving the final group onto the bus. 3 spots left. That was it. We had 5 people. Dad looked at me. "Send Mom and Grandma." "No," Mom said instantly. "Not without you." "There's no time," Dad said. "What about Kira?" I asked. "She won't leave without you." Kira looked at me, eyes full of dust and something softer. "I'm not going," she whispered. "Don't ask again." The soldier called. 3 more. "Let's go. Now." Dad looked at me. I looked at Mom. And somehow we knew. No one was leaving. The bus pulled away. The exhaust stung my eyes. Or maybe that was just the tears. That night, we lit one last candle in the basement. The wax pooled slowly. Kira sat next to me, knees hugged to her chest. "I don't regret it," she said. "I do," I whispered. "But only for your sake." She smiled, the kind of smile people wear when they're about to break. Then she leaned in close and whispered, "If I die here, I want to die holding your hand." "You won't," I said. "I might. But not alone." We sat like that until the flame died. Just 2 teenagers in a war they didn't start. Trying to find light in a place that had forgotten what light was. Hunger changes people. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow at your feet. First, you feel tired. Then dizzy. Then you start thinking of food like it's a memory, something soft, glowing, impossible. By day 5, without proper meals, people stopped talking. By day 7, they stopped hoping. The basement smelled like wet cement, plastic, and sweat. The last loaf of bread had gone moldy. Some scraped off the green and ate the rest. Some didn't bother scraping. The only drink left was melted snow from a broken bucket. And even that had to be shared. Kira was getting worse. She stopped sitting up, stopped answering when people called her name. Her skin looked too pale, her lips cracked, and she'd shiver even under 3 layers of blankets. One night, she didn't open her eyes at all. Mom pressed her forehead. "She's burning up." We tried everything. Tepid cloths, rubbing her arms, spoonfuls of snow melt. But nothing helped. I couldn't breathe. That night, I stood in the stairwell. Cold air stung my cheeks. My fists clenched. And I decided. There was an older couple on the third floor. They never came to the basement. Never shared food. But we all knew they had supplies. Everyone could smell it when the wind shifted through their cracked door. I knocked once. Twice. No answer. Then I pushed the door open. Inside, warm blankets, candles, shelves stacked with tins. The man was there. He looked at me like I'd broken something sacred. I need help, I said. No, he snapped. Get out. There's a girl. She's dying. She's not my problem. He moved toward me. I saw a can of stew on the table. I grabbed it. I'll pay you back. You're a thief, he shouted. But I was already running. Down the stairs. Heart pounding harder than it ever had during a soccer match. Faster than the day of the water run. I burst into the basement. Mom didn't ask where I got it. She just opened it and fed Kira in small spoonfuls. She coughed, gagged, then swallowed. And for the first time in 2 days, she opened her eyes. Dan, she whispered. Right here. You came back. I never left. She smiled. So faint I almost missed it. I was dreaming, she whispered. Of the sea. We'll see it again, I said. No, just keep talking. I like your voice. I held her hand, even though it was cold. And I thought, I would have stolen 10 cans. 100. The whole world. Just to keep her talking. Later that night, a man named Vadim, a former taxi driver, maybe 30, snapped. I can't take this anymore, he yelled. We're waiting to die down here like rats. Keep your voice down, Dad warned. We should be out there. Vadim screamed. Fighting, surviving, doing something. Doing what? Someone asked. Running into bullets? Vadim didn't answer. He just grabbed a knife, stuffed some supplies into a bag, and stormed out. He returned the next morning. Bloody. Silent. He sat in the corner and didn't speak again. 2 days later, he stopped breathing. That night, Kira and I sat against the wall. The candle between us was burning low. I heard what you did, she said softly. I didn't do anything. You risked your life. I shrugged. I'm not letting you go that easy. She turned toward me. Dan. Yeah. Why are you really still here? I looked at her. And this time, I didn't lie. Because I think I love you. She didn't say anything. Just leaned her head against my shoulder. Outside, the snow was still falling. But for a moment, it felt warm. The blast came at dawn. I remember the light first, a strange, greenish glow through the cracks in the ceiling. Then the sound, like a mountain falling sideways. Like the sky splitting open. Everything shook. Dust filled the air. Screams. Someone pulled me down. Or maybe I fell. When I opened my eyes, half the wall was gone. Not broken, gone. Chunks of concrete lay where the kitchen used to be. Our emergency supplies were buried. The stairs to the basement were rubble. And Dad was gone too. I screamed his name. Clawed at the debris. My hands bled. My throat burned. No answer. Mom was sobbing. Kira held my arm, trembling. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel anything. We spent hours digging. With bare hands. With hope sharpened like knives. But in the end, all we found was Dad's coat. Torn, dusty, empty. I don't remember crying. I just remember staring at the coat for a long time. And thinking, this isn't fair. But war doesn't care about fair. We couldn't stay. Not without food. Not without a roof. Not with the dead too close to the living. A man named Yuri, ex-construction worker, always quiet, said he knew a way through the industrial district. Risky, he said, but better than waiting here to rot. There were 6 of us. Yuri, Mom, me, Kira, a girl named Sveta with a mangled leg, and her brother, maybe 10. We wrapped what we could in bed sheets, blankets, cans, photos, and we walked through snow that smelled like ash, past buildings like skeletons, under signs half burned, half buried. We saw things I still can't talk about. Bodies. Dogs eating from corpses. A woman singing to a pile of bricks. I wanted to close my eyes, but I was afraid if I did, I wouldn't open them again. We reached the old tram yard by sunset. That's when the sniper started. No warning. Just crack. And Yuri dropped. We fell to the ground, pressed ourselves against rusted metal. I held Kira's head down, covering her with my arms. Another shot. Closer. Mom whispered a prayer I'd never heard before. Then silence. Somehow we weren't hit. We waited until dark, then crawled, inch by inch, until we were clear. My knees were bleeding. Kira was coughing again. The little boy wet himself. No one said a word. We found shelter in a burned-out school. There was a classroom with the windows boarded up. On the chalkboard, someone had written, "We are still here." Kira traced the words with her fingers. "We are," she whispered. I sat beside her, laid out our last blanket, unwrapped 2 crackers. We split them 4 ways. She looked at me. "I'm scared," she said. "I know. I can't lose anyone else." "You won't." She leaned in. "I wish we had more time." I kissed her, gently, like a secret, and whispered, "We do. We're still here." Outside, the wind howled. But inside that ruined room, for the first time in weeks, we slept without fear.